Donald Trump this morning went on Hugh Hewitt's program, and he was asked by the conservative talk show host, radio host, what his plans would be for Gaza, for the day after scenario. We keep hearing about the day after scenario where America, the pro-democracy imperial power, wants to decide who gets to govern the Palestinian people, for democracy. Anyway, here's Trump's plans.
You're a developer, so I want to talk to you about Gaza. I worked with land use developers for 35 years when I was actively practicing law. You know how to build things. Gaza is in ruins. Could Gaza be Monaco if it was rebuilt the right way? Could someone make Gaza into something that all the Palestinian people would be proud of, would want to live in, would benefit them?
It could be better than Monaco. It has the best location in the Middle East, the best water, the best everything. It is the best. I've said it for years. When I've been there, and it's rough. It's a rough place. Before the
You've been to Gaza?
Attacks and before back and forth, what's happened over the last couple of years. And I said, wow, look at this. I mean, they'd have the back of a plant facing the ocean. They'd have there was no ocean as far as that was concerned. They never took advantage of it. As a developer, it could be the most beautiful place. The weather, the water, the whole thing, the climate. It could be so beautiful. It could be the best thing in the Middle East, but it could be one of the best places in the world. And, there are other civilizations. I don't know if you know this. It's crazy, but that's been a rough neighborhood. That's been a rough place. Underneath that are two other civilizations where they were wiped out and they started over and they build on top. It's amazing.
Oh, so we should do that. No, but that's insane. Just there are two other civilizations underneath. So we could start a new civilization over the one that's already there. Let's go back 10 seconds.
Are two other civilizations where they were wiped out and they started over and they build on top. It's amazing. I mean,
do you think your partners? That's been a very
contentious area for a long time, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Can you get the Abraham Accords going again and get your partners like UAE, Bahrain, and possibly Saudi to help you, and Egypt to help you in Gaza if you're president again, to rebuild it the right way and get rid of the fanatics?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I think not only the Abraham Accords, the Abraham Accords is one of the great things that's ever happened in the Middle East.
Yeah, which Biden is pursuing, by the way. The reason that Biden's policy has been such an absolute disaster in pushing forward Israel's genocidal aims is because he's pursued the Trump-era policy of the Abraham Accords, which is normalization between Saudi Arabia and other nations in the region with Israel without dealing with the, quote, Palestinian issue, which is the multi-decade military operation and military occupation and siege of Gaza, but also the military occupation of the West Bank, not dealing with that issue whatsoever. Hamas has been clear that the continuation of this strategy under Biden and the sidelining of any Palestinian voices in these negotiations contributed to their decision to attack on October 7th. And you see there why. I mean, in the sense of just like what political, the view of representatives of the Palestinian people, regardless of what you want to say about Hamas, how did they feel like they have any recourse or way to talk about a political and diplomatic solution for Palestinians when this is the attitude from the leaders of both parties? Now we'll see with Harris, but with Biden, he pursued the Abraham Accords completely. He pursued Trump-era policies. This is a very neoconservative administration that Biden has presided over as it relates to this. And when you look at the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was I thought it was a good move, it seems more like, he just didn't want to go off the path of his predecessor because Trump had set up this timeline in order to screw his the person who would come after him if he lost the election, or he would kick the can down the road for the Afghanistan withdrawal and Taliban takeover if he were to have won in 2020. So it seems more just like Biden in both instances continued to implement what was laid out in front of him when he got into office, one for good, which was withdrawing from Afghanistan, and the other was just continuing this extreme neocon policy of trying to force through Israeli normalization with Saudi Arabia and giving MBS security assurances and weapons to do so, regardless of the outcome to the Palestinian people. But when you come back to Trump here, I mean, this is why he's just a complete sociopath. And he views the Gaza Strip in the way that a lot of capitalists and wealthy people in this country do, but they'll never say it. It is prime real estate. It's right there. It's right there near the Suez, where a key canal for the transfer of oil and for wealth in this country. And let's develop real estate there, just like Tel Aviv, a glistening city on the still decomposing carcasses of Palestinian children. We could do that in Gaza. Make Khan Yunis into a freaking casino town. That's what his vision is for it. And Jared Kushner said this 6 months ago at a talk at Harvard. Jared Kushner says Gaza's waterfront property could be very valuable. Trump's son-in-law also said Israel should bulldoze an area of the Negev desert and move Palestinians there, which again has been the policy of Israeli occupation and ethnic cleansing for decades, which is that they want the waterfront property Trump talks about with all of this gleam in his eye. That's why they do want to push Palestinians into the desert. So the most profitable, the most important for trade land along the sea is all within Israel's control.
Trump does know, indeed, how to develop things. Of course, as I keep mentioning, the Trump Tower here in New York that was one of his early claims to fame, was built with undocumented Polish labor removing asbestos, and that those laborers started complaining about their tardiness in pay and threatened to kill the guy that was the liaison between Trump and those workers. And Trump said, why don't we threaten to bring in immigration deportation services here if these guys aren't going to play ball? This is America's model of development, which is, okay, make a Vegas. Make a Las Vegas like Bahrain or all these different Gulf states that we help build with our allies. And they're basically built on a spectacle, speculation, and sex trafficking. And that's the future that America can offer this world. And it is our history. 400 years ago, when we're deciding let's genocide the Native Americans and take that land, it's because, look, they're not doing anything with it. We can do improvements. This is from many of these ideas have been incubated in an earlier period with the construction of the first British Empire, blah, blah, blah. Progress may have been the doctrine of the later Enlightenment, but the looser idea of improvement was the watchword for earlier generations of colonial promoters, which is what Kushner and Trump are, operating on both sides of the Atlantic. According to one Virginia landowner, which is another way of saying slave owner, the creation of an English empire could unleash radical possibilities for the benefit of mankind and the advantage of the Commonwealth of Learning. Now, from the vantage point of 400 years later, where all we're fucking doing is building strip malls and suburbs, I think that's even then probably something disingenuous. Probably something people should have resisted. But now we've seen the fucking proof in the pudding, and it's to make golf courses for these goddamn assholes. So yeah, Gaza, you can turn that into a resort where Israelis can go and get a little sun, and it's staffed by the remaining population that you allow to live in Gaza. Like, that's the plan they see. That's the place for Gazans in the future. Gaza is putting ice in the drinks for Israelis.
That's exactly right. And in our genocide of the Native American population, which took decades, centuries, we were not live streaming that. Now, this country is built on genocide and ethnic cleansing of the indigenous population. We should never forget that. And so you can view Israel as a very American model in that sense. Just replace, as Matt's alluding to, the talk about civilizing these parts of the land and making it into this beautiful place where people can go to resorts, as Trump talks about, just replace the word civilizing from past colonial language with spreading democracy, and you have a pretty good sense of what U.S. Middle Eastern policy is about.
Democracy, when it's said by, Zionists in our State Department, it means capitalist exploitation.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.